away. One by one, they all just fade away. Dun dun. Hello, my name is Julia, and today I'm here to talk about my all-time favorite TV show in the world, Community. I am definitely no expert, no film critic, just a person who likes talking about film and television and who just wants to talk about Community all day, every day if I could. But yeah, now's the time, baby. Okay. So what is Community? Community is a American sitcom by a man called Dan Harmon, who's quite famous. He's also the showrunner for Rick and Morty, for example. First aired in 2009 and went on till 2015. The show itself had a lot of ups and downs. For example, after the third season, Dan Harmon was fired as a showrunner. And so in season 4, they had new showrunners. But then when season 4 had kind of lukewarm responses, didn't have as much critical acclaim as the first 3 seasons did, and they decided to rehire Dan Harmon for season 5 and 6. Another thing that happened was that after season 5, the show got cancelled. It was on NBC in America, and the show was cancelled. But then later, Yahoo decided to take on the 6th season and air it on their platform. Thank God for Yahoo. Yahoo? Oh, never mind. And what also happened is that after a while, a lot of the main cast started to change because either the actors didn't want to be in the show anymore, or they had different career paths or goals and decided to leave. So Community has had a lot of changes, a lot of ups and downs, but I think that's also why it's so special, because it had some hard times, but it's just a diamond in the TV series world. So Community is about a study group that got together in a community college in a fictional town called Greendale. And the show itself is just about how they, just their daily life in the community college, and how the study group starts to get to know each other and their relationships evolve and they start having these random adventures. Community actually gathered a huge cult following after a while, because the longer the show went on, the kind of stranger and bizarrer it got. I think stranger and bizarre are the same thing. It went on to just become so specific and so niche and weird and amazing, and it referenced so many pop culture things, so many films and TV shows. And that's why they had like this following of hardcore fans who just supported and still support the show to this day. And that's why I think that was the big success of Community, that it has a mainstream audience, so people who you can get into it easy. It's like easy entertainment, or you can get like into it as a hardcore fan and see all these little details that you didn't see before. And because it's so smart and complex that you can watch it over and over and over again and still find new things that you love. Okay, the story begins when lawyer Jeff Winger is suspended from his law firm after they find out he doesn't have a real university degree, and he has to go to a community college to actually get a real degree. During this time, in like his first week at the community college, he meets a woman called Britta Perry, and he starts to like her, fancy her, and to get her attention, he forms the study group, and he doesn't really want to study, he just wants to spend time with her. But she decides to bring along Abed, and he decides to bring along other people, and that's how the study group forms. And throughout the episodes, the characters grow and get closer and closer and go on adventures together, and that's basically where the story, it sets off from there. That's just the start. I'm just going to quickly go through the characters. The original study group, because there are some changes throughout the seasons, but like the first 3 seasons, I think they're the same group of 5? No, 1, 2, 7. Same group of 7. There's Jeff Winger, played by Joel McHale, and he's a former lawyer. He's kind of an alpha male, cool guy, very sarcastic. He's kind of narcissistic, always only cares about himself, about the way he looks, how other people perceive him, doesn't really want to be there, and he's just there because he wants to get to know Britta. But throughout the show, he's almost like the dad of the group. He gets very protective over his friends. He gets more selfless. He looks after them, and like more and more, you see he has a softer side and comes away from this trope of like the cool man. The next character is Britta Perry, played by Gillian Jacobs. At the beginning, she's the typical like love interest. She's this cool girl, very pretty, edgy, she wants to be different. Now she doesn't really want to be with Jeff, but she's just kind of cold towards him, and it's just like this classical trope of the cool girl love interest. But boy, does that change. I think throughout the show, Britta has the most character development, or she's like the one person who goes away from her original character the most. She's kind of this anarchist, activist girl who wants to always do the right thing and is very politically active and has a lot of views. Well, I guess she says she does. She always gives a lot of speeches, and she's always like, the way you guys live is like the norm of society, but I know what's really true. And she always goes on these huge rants about politics and what's wrong with society. But it's kind of, the more you get to know her, the more you realize she doesn't actually know a lot about the world either. Like she's kind of hypocritical. She says all these things to seem a certain way, but that's actually not who she is. More than anything, she's kind of this dopey, lovable loser who's just always trying to do the right thing, trying to say the right thing, but often fucks up. And because she wants to be such like a activist type, she often says the wrong things and just annoys everyone instead of actually doing anything productive. And more the group makes fun of her a lot, and so she kind of turns into this punchline a lot of times. But I just love her. I think she's just a sweet person, Britta, and she just wants to do the right thing, man. The next character is Abed, played by Danny Pudi. Abed Nadir is this very sweet man. He's a film student, very out of touch with reality. He has like this insane knowledge of film and television and projects all his knowledge onto the real world. So he sees situations as like in like film tropes and television tropes and cliches, and often just observes the world in that way, not actually understanding how society really works and social cues and why he's perceived as strange or why he's not normal in comparison to the others. He is, however, because he's such an observer, because he sees everything like film types, he often understands people more than they think he does. Like, he's often very smart and his observations are usually spot on, and the way he often calls out people for their bullshit because he just sees it as black and white. He's one of the smartest of the group, basically. I also read somewhere that I think he's meant to be an autistic character, but I'd have to look that up. I think I saw that somewhere, and that would be really cool. Abed, amazing guy. The next character is Shirley Bennett, who's played by Yvette Nicole Brown, and she's this very friendly, very kind, very, very Christian woman. She's a single mother, and she's at Greendale because she wants to open her own brownie shop one day. She's like the mother of the group, basically. She takes care of everyone. She's not a bit older. I think her and Jeff are almost the same age, but for some reason, because she's a woman, people are like she's old, and because Jeff's like this cool guy, society man. So Shirley, she's very emotional, and she manipulates a lot the people in the group with her emotions a lot, because she can make them feel bad, or she kind of makes them feel guilty because they didn't do something she wanted. So she knows how to work her emotions very well, and she kind of knows what she's doing. The fact that she's always like very kind and very innocent and very helpful and very Christian is just she is that way, but it's also kind of an act. She kind of portrays herself that way to seem a certain way, but she also uses it to manipulate people. And she's very hot-tempered, and you almost feel like every time she does manipulate people or she is hot-tempered, you like her more, because you're like, You're a real person, Shirley. Do your thing. Woo! Okay. The next person is Annie Edison, played by Alison Brie. At the beginning, Annie is this kind of preppy, uptight, nice girl. She's the youngest of the group. She's very academically inclined. She's like an overachiever. She wants to belong. She wants to be successful. And it's because in high school she was very unpopular, and that led to her having an Adderall addiction. And now so she's really anxious to fit in and to be this perfect student, perfect person. But throughout the seasons, she still stays the same. She's still a bit uptight and this overachiever, but she grows into herself more and she gets to be more confident and just more confident in herself. At the beginning, Annie's just one of the study group, who are the main characters, but still, I think like Jeff is very, very much the main character. But I think throughout the series, Annie slowly starts to become the main character next to Jeff, because there's a lot of chemistry between Jeff and Annie, so you're always like, will they, won't they? But you kind of don't want them, but you kind of do. But I think Annie slowly grows to just be so interesting that you want to just see her storylines all the time. So I think she's like the sneaky secret protagonist of the whole thing. The next character is Troy Barnes, played by Donald Glover, who's also Childish Gambino. He starts out as this kind of jock type, cool guy who was the star quarterback in high school, who had an injury that made him not be able to go to this amazing university and have a scholarship there, but he has to go to community college. But we later find out that he had the injury on purpose because there was too much pressure put upon him. And throughout this series, I think even season 1, his character changes a lot. Mostly through his friendship with Abed, because Abed is so himself. He's so nerdy and he's so into things. He kind of opens up Troy's world to these things. Troy embraces his nerdy side. He's kind of still innocent as well, and he's so funny and he's like childish and so sweet. And Abed and Troy's friendship is like the sweetest friendship ever. It's so beautiful. Yeah, and Troy's just this amazing character who has so many funny one-liners and is just so goofy and cool, and I don't know. I just love how the show like turns around what it means to be a man. Like, you don't have to be this cool guy. Like Jeff, you can just be as manly, being nerdy and goofy like Abed and Troy, and just still be very attractive. The next person in the study group is Pierce Hawthorne, who's played by Chevy Chase. And he's this old guy who's a millionaire and who just attends community college out of boredom, and he kind of wants to find himself. He's often the black sheep in the group because he's kind of has these very narrow-minded, almost conservative views. He often says really racist things. He's very old-fashioned. He always says horrible stuff, and then people just go like, Pierce, what the fuck? And that's why he's always kind of an outsider and never is like fully in the group, because he's just so he just says a lot of fucked up things. But for some reason you notice that he just really wants to belong, and you find out he has this really complex relationship to his parents and had a difficult upbringing, so you know he's been traumatized in life and he's just trying to get by, and he doesn't but he doesn't know otherwise, and the group teaches him modern views, how to have healthy relationships, how to be good to each other, and you also kind of feel sorry for Pierce, but only a little bit. But he's hilarious as well. So this was the study group, and now we have two characters who are in the main cast but who aren't in the study group, and one of them is Ben Chang, played by Ken Jeong, and he starts out as a Spanish teacher at Greendale, but then as the seasons go on, he just does whatever. He has a lot of roles at that school, and he is the most crazy character you'll ever come across. He is literally insane, I think. He, everything he does, he takes to the extreme. He has makes these erratic decisions, and he's just insane. He's just wild, and he's so funny. And throughout the seasons, he's friends with the group and then not friends again, and it's this really complex relationship. But you do feel sorry for him because he's kind of sweet. He's just hilarious. And the last character is my favourite, is Craig Pelton, played by Jim Rash, and he's the Dean. The Dean is the Dean of Greendale, the community college. And he, in the first 2 seasons, he isn't in the main cast, but after season 3, he's in the main cast. And his goal is basically to make Greendale in like a real university. He wants the school just to be as renowned and as successful as normal universities, and tries his best to do this. He does this by organising a lot of events and different activities for the students to do at Greendale, and he's often the catalyst for adventures the group has. So a lot of times in the show he'll come in, and the great thing about him is that he loves cross-dressing. So every time there's an event, he comes into the study room with the perfect outfit on for whatever event's happening, and he goes hello, and then he just like tells them what's going to happen, and he's always so funny. And I'm so happy he's in the main cast after season 3, because his storylines are just so funny and so stupid, but I think he's such an interesting character, and he's so complex, and he's just so cool. Yeah, and also one of my favorite times he comes in is when he's dressed as a peanut, and he does like a rap and has a breakdown afterwards. Comedy gold. Oh, and he also very aggressively flirts with Jeff, and that's always very funny as well. Okay, now I've extensively told you about the characters. I'm just gonna list why I love the show, what I love about the show. One thing I love is just how smart it is. The humor is incredible, the writing is incredible. It's just, the humor is so meta. Like, I've never watched a show that's so self-aware, and it's so self-aware. They reference things that happened 5 seasons ago and just expect the viewer to know, or there's like they just make references to things that happened, or a character trait as a viewer we know because we saw them in an episode before, but you might have forgotten. And there's so many pop culture references that often you don't even notice or you don't even see, and that's why you can watch the show so many times, is because you always see new things, and it's so clever, and like every line is funny and witty. Like every single thing they say is kind of leads up to a great joke, or already is a great joke. What I also really like about it is that it parodies and uses the tropes of so many films. Like, there's often episodes that are in the style of a film for the whole episode, and it's so creative and so wacky and strange. There's like a whole episode in like the style of The Godfather and like mafia films, and then there's one that's like a war documentary where it's about pillow forts and blanket forts, and it's just, the whole episode is just, they just see it through to the end, and it's just so creative. Or even the paintball scenes are like action movies, and it's just so perfect. It makes you so happy as a viewer to see something so creative and clever being made and put out there, and you're able to witness somebody's genius, and then somebody paid to get it made, and you're allowed to watch it. I don't know, it's so cool. What I also really like is just how the characters develop throughout the seasons. The perfect example being Britta, of course, or again the Dean, how he just develops into this much more complex character, and you have his backstory. Just the relationship in the study group itself, the way they act around each other, how their history grows together, and how you get to know people's pasts and quirks and why they are the way they are. It's just, season for season it gets more detailed and more interesting. It just makes the characters so lovable, and just like, for example, Chang. In season 1, you're like, what the fuck is wrong with Chang? And then in like season 3, you're in love with him. Maybe not, but you are. What I also love are the side characters. There's just like a recurring cast of people who are not in every episode, but always like influence the main cast's story. For example, there's Star Burns or Leonard or Vicky, and all these people who, because they come up more and more, you actually start to feel a bond with them as well. And you're like, what'll happen to Star Burns? And then you have this whole story around him, and then he's gone for a few episodes, but then he's back, and it's just, there's so much attention to detail, and even the side characters have their own world and their own story, and you're just like, everything comes together so beautifully all the time. Yeah, and it just fleshes out the whole world because, you know, these are actually, it's just not just the main cast and just background noise. It's the main cast, and then there's individuals in the back who also have their own story going, and it's amazing. And now I have my laptop here because I wrote down some of my favorite episodes in the 6 seasons. I tried to narrow it down to 2 episodes a season, which was very hard. It was like choosing between your children, but here are my top episodes. Okay, season 1 is Introduction to Statistics, and this is the first Halloween episode. And this is one of my favorite episodes because it was the episode where like the show clicked for me. Watching that episode, I was like, okay, I think this is actually something special. You know when you watch a show and you're like, I like it, but then there's this one moment where you're like, okay, I think I love it. This is my new favorite thing. This was the Halloween episode did this for me. Then the second one in season 1 is Modern Warfare, which is classically the paintball episode. And I think that was just the moment where Community just found its stride. It's like where it found what it is. It's just weird. And it had the whole the like action movie trope. It was just bizarre. It was funny. And I think that's just Community found its way in this episode. Season 2, Cooperative Calligraphy. That's the episode Classic where Annie loses her pen in the study room. And then it's like a bottle episode because they don't leave the room, and it's like this huge fight, and the whole episode is just set in the one room, a bottle episode. And I just really like it because it kind of strengthens their relationship a lot more. This episode, you get to know them more, how they work, because there's no background distraction. It's just the group in this room. I think it's so good. Another one is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons in season 2. It's really sad because there's this guy called Neil who people at school call Fat Neil, and he's very depressed, and that's why the group decides to help him out, make him feel a bit better, and play Dungeons and Dragons with him. And I just think it's just such a funny episode. It's so creative and cool and nerdy, and I love it. Season 3, Remedial Chaos Theory, and this is like a very iconic episode as well. It's when Troy and Abed move in together and they have a housewarming party. And it's the episode where the kind of parallel universes turn up, and you see the same story happen in different realities. And this is like a theme that then is threaded throughout the rest of the season, because you always come back to, like, because there's a bad timeline or dark timeline. Oh, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's Dark Timeline, and that timeline like reoccurs throughout the seasons now and again, so it like sets up this amazing story that then keeps happening or coming back. And of course, Pillows and Blankets, which is the war documentary about the pillow fort versus the blanket fort, and how the big battle of Greendale happens, and it's just hilarious, and it's so creative. I can't. Season 4, this is the season that had the worst reviews and people liked it the least, but I still enjoyed it because it's Community, and Community's just always got to be great. Yeah, one of the episodes I loved was Paranormal Parentage, where Pierce locks himself into the panic room in his mansion, and the team has to find the panic room and get him out, and it's like this horror mansion. It's a bit like a scary movie, and it was very entertaining. Yeah, and another one I liked in season 4 was Heroic Origins, where Abed pieces together the past of every group member and realizes that they were always linked and were always meant to meet, and it's just sweet. It's a really, really sweet episode. Season 5 has some very, very funny episodes, I think, but one of my favorite ones is Basic Intergluteal Numismatics. Don't know if I said that right, probably not. And it's about Jeff and Annie try to solve the case of the ass crack bandit, this guy who, when he sees an ass crack, puts penny in it. And it's set up like this crime show, very serious. It could be on TV today. It's like this murder mystery crime show. And it's funny because in season 2, Annie actually mentions it. She says, and we're going to defeat the ass crack bandit. And then in season 5, they actually make an episode on it. It's just so cool because it's like it rewards the people watching. They're like, remember this? Oh, we're going to actually talk about it now. And I just love it. Okay, and then a legendary episode in season 5, App Development and Condiments, which is the classic Meow Meow Beans episode. This is where an app is introduced to the college where you can rate yourself with Meow Meow Beans, and they're like cat heads, and then 5 is the best and 1 is the worst. And it happens that like this whole society evolves where the 5s are the like kings and leaders of the world, and the 1s are these outcasts, and it's like this dystopian horror world. It's just ridiculous, but so funny and so clever. I feel like I say this after every time I say I'm just saying it's ridiculous but so funny. Then season 6, sadly the last one. One I really enjoyed in this one was Basic Email Security, where a hacker threatens to publish emails unless this racist comedian who's supposed to have a gig at Greendale, unless his performance is cancelled. And it's just really complex, and you see the relationships between everyone, and I really enjoyed that episode. I thought it was really good. Oh yeah, and one of my favourite scenes ever, I think, in Community is in season 6, and it's in Basic Crisis Room Decorum, and it's when Dean thinks he's texting Jeffrey, but he's actually texting a teenage boy from Japan, and I just think it's so funny. It's just so funny this teenage boy then tells Dean to get olives, and Dean is like, I did this last time, Jeffrey, and and you didn't react well, and he was like, no, I'm just playing, I love it. And then the Dean brings olives to Jeffrey, and just Jeffrey's face is just like absolutely confused. He's like, you've done this before, I just don't understand. Like, he's genuinely so confused, and the Dean's just like, I know what you mean. And then at the end, I'm just going to talk about the scene now. At the end, when the Japanese teenager's father confronts him and makes this really deep speech about the financial world and how the modern times are ruining us all, and it's just such a intense monologue in the middle of this comedy scene. It's just so funny. When he texts the Dean, hellos, very funny. There's an S behind the hello, very funny. Yeah, and another thing I love in season 6 is Intro to Recycled Cinema, where Chang stars in a commercial for ham, and he gets really successful with it, and his tagline is, ham, girl! It's just so stupid. And the gang tries to make money by converting footage of this cop drama Chang was in into this sci-fi film they're making, and it's just so weird. Again, it's just so creative and weird. I just so these were my fun opinions on Community. It will always be my favorite show. I think it's just fantastic, and I really urge you to watch it. Just binge it all, or watch it and binge it. I'd say binge it, and then just rewatch it again. And then throughout life, just watch a few episodes now and then to feel better, because they'll feel like family after a while. Have you seen Community? What's your opinion on Community? Do you love it as much as I do? Do you not? What's your favorite season? Did you like season 4? I still liked it. Did you? I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you so much for watching this video. And I hope I didn't offend anyone with my opinions or my love of Community. Goodbye.